I started my business back in 2021, right after COVID, when there was this huge wave of online content creators sharing their expertise and knowledge, especially on TikTok and Instagram. And literally, my account blew up in like 30 days. But when that all crashed, I didn't have like strong foundations, inner foundations to kind of like keep me afloat. So I crashed as well. And that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. I struggled.
When should you pivot and when you should persevere and keep pushing? This is the question that we face all the time as entrepreneur, and this episode is going to bless you. Also, maybe you have a nudge to pivot into something that you're not quite sure if it is going to be tangible or if it is going to be profitable and it's going to be sustainable for your business. You're here for a treat because my guest and I are talking about pivoting into spiritual business specifically, or more intentionally pivoting into non-tangible business, and how it made him profit. He is talking about many iterations of his business and many pivots and the journey and the doubt, and also how pivot sometimes can work without too much strategy when you just put intention and it's just meant for you and you're walking in your assignment, you're walking in your calling, and money just flowing to you. Listen, if you are in a pivot season, if your heart is calling for more, if you're craving authentic connection, authentic conversation about pivoting without strategies that every single business coach throws at you, this episode is for you and it's going to bless you. And I really hope you're going to walk away with a lot of inspiration, hope, and give yourself permission that maybe the pivot that you're thinking about, it is the pivot that is going to bring you soul alignment, profit, and happiness. Enjoy. All right, everybody. I have a very special guest on my channel and on my podcast, Juan Galán.
You said it perfectly.
All right. So I was recently on his podcast, and today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic. We're going to talk about pivoting, and he's going to share his story about his pivot or his pivots and what he went through. And Juan is such a multifaceted and multi-passionate person that I think I'm just going to let him introduce himself because he has done so much, from Instagram to business coaching to spiritual coaching and so much more and all above. So Juan, welcome. So for those who are very new to you, or for my audience who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like what you do, what lights you up, and what do you do right now?
Thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me here. I'm super excited to do this part two of our conversation. So, who am I? That is a great question. Sometimes I don't even know who I am. I'm joking. I'm Juan. I'm from Colombia. I've been living abroad for 16 years. I moved to Spain when I was 18, and I've been a digital nomad since 2022. I started my business back in 2021, right after COVID, when there was this huge wave of online content creators sharing their expertise and knowledge, especially on TikTok and Instagram. And I had been in the marketing space for about 5 years back then, and also working on my own personal Instagram. And when I saw these creators blowing up, I was like, I think I have what it takes to do the same. And I always wanted to have my own business and have the freedom to travel and, financial freedom, location freedom. So I was like, I'm just going to give it a go. I started sharing Instagram tips, content creation tips, and literally my account blew up in like 30 days. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? That's how my business got started. It wasn't really planned. It was just a consequence of me sharing content online, and people started reaching out for coaching, brands started approaching for partnerships. So that was really fun, actually. Like, It was the best way to start a business because everything just came so easily, but it hasn't always been like that. So that was the first year in business. And after the first year, things started to slow down. And I also went through some personal hardships, like a breakup. Of course, whatever you experience in your personal life starts manifesting in your business as well, right? And back then, I could say I was very superficial and vain in terms of I was really worried or really cared about what like how people perceived me externally. I thought that if I looked good, people would love me and accept me. And same with Instagram, like I wanted to keep up that performance of like, virality and sales. But when that all crashed, I didn't have like strong foundations, inner foundations to kind of like keep me afloat. So I crashed as well. And that was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. I struggled for like, I would say 3 years in terms of okay, well, the thing that I started, which was Instagram coaching, is not working anymore, and it's also not fulfilling me. So I pivoted to more of like how to make money on Instagram, and then I pivoted to how to use AI to grow on Instagram, and that worked well as well because it was when AI was starting to become like the thing. That was what allowed me to also like stay afloat with my business. But still I felt unfulfilled and I felt like something was missing. And after that I pivoted more to like business coaching and entrepreneurship, like an entrepreneurial mindset and coaching. And then I pivoted to I became a Christian. So I started to talk more about Christianity and God and Jesus. And after that, I pivoted more to like nervous system regulation and subconscious beliefs. And then this has been my last pivot, and I hope it's the last one because I'm really feeling it to more of mysticism, energetics, spirituality. And to be honest, out of all the thousand pivots that I just mentioned, this is the one that has worked the best, not only for myself, but like the results I'm seeing in terms of audience and business growth has been incredible in just like 30 days.
Nice, nice. Listen, it is so incredible to actually have you on, like, have a conversation with you on my podcast, and then like really talk to you in person, because I don't know if you know, but the first time I saw you on Instagram is when you and Shannon McKinstry did a live stream together.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, those lives are really good. That part I really enjoyed, like the connection with people and just getting together and sharing our expertise and our discoveries, and that was really fun.
So, and feel free to steal my social selling strategy. Like what I do, like I go on the app, right? For example, I like Shannon, and whoever Shannon shares, I follow them and I engage if I like their content. It's not like superficial. I engage with them in the comments, and like you said on your podcast, you said like, well, if you were engaging in my comments like really deeply and it resonated, then we start talking in the DMs, and then we have a podcast together, and then we have like part two together. So like that's how I, and like I think one thing what really kind of stopped me scrolling, right, is after probably a year from that live stream, I recognize your face when you start talking about you coming out with your sexuality as gay and spirituality and your story, how your audience was handling that. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, that sounds like a little bit more than just Instagram, because, I think we are kind of fed up with just social media strategies, right? Because everything is fairly the same. Make a hook, engage with your
Mm,
audience, make sure that you're clear and concise, and different marketing messaging frameworks, right? Whatever, anything can work. There are no really
mm,
rules. Like every marketer will preach you what they work for them, but like
yeah.
you started sharing about you and I start engaging because that really resonates. This is my job. I might as well enjoy what I do for a living, right? And like social selling, engagement with other people on social media, like that was a part of it. So I guess my first question for you: when was that moment that you realized that that niche was no longer fitting you. And what was that process when you like, you know what? Because I did a pivot myself. I pivoted from tech career coaching because I was a software engineer for 9 years. And like after following, like business coaches, and like a lot of business coaches will tell you, hey, like it has to be tangible. People have to either make a lot of
Mm,
money, or like they have to, like, it has to be something that people can hold in their hand, or like make a career and make a lot of money, maybe even like relationship, right? Like divorce coach or
yeah.
relationship coach, or like fitness coach is a little bit trickier. So that's why, like, you know what? I should probably sell how to get into tech and get like a lot of salaries, but my soul calling was like healing and helping entrepreneurs to grow and heal and
Mm.
build aligned businesses. So for you, what was that moment when you like, this niche is, this is not it?
That is a great question. And I think there's two parts to it, or two answers. I think there's a moment when you feel this unconsciously, and then when you actually realize it consciously and you're kind of ready to do it. Unconsciously, I would say that the moment that my content, especially, I'm going to focus mostly on my content because that's more or less how I see, how I measure, no, not my success or performance, but the resonance with my audience. And if I'm in alignment, and for me, alignment is extremely important. And if I'm in alignment with what I'm doing, it's going to resonate with my audience because there's going to be resonant. So the moment that my content stopped working, that was around a year after I had started, right? I remember I did this post because I used to share a lot of reels trending audios and reels tips. And that was, people were crazy about reels because everyone wanted to go viral and I would go viral all the time. So obviously people trusted me in that. And then I started seeing so many other people, like thousands of people sharing the same thing as you were saying before, like this, how to go viral with reels. Oh, have a strong hook, use these trending audios, and people sharing trending audios. And I was like, I'm one of the mass. I don't, and I like to stand out. I feel that I came here to stand out and to be different. I've always been different and I hated it before, but now I'm proud of my differences. So I was like, I don't feel like I want to do this anymore. And I made a post in 20, like it was around November 2022. So literally 1 year after. And I was like, I'm done with sharing trending audios. After that day, I started losing followers every single day. I was just not resonating with that anymore. But of course, I had built a brand and business, and it was working not as well as the previous year, but it was still bringing me revenue. And like I was living my life with that and I had a business. So, of course, I couldn't just drop it all. I had like no backup plan. So, I continued sharing the same type of content, not reels, but like more how to, like build a brand on Instagram, how to make money on Instagram, how to build a community. And it the more I did it, the less and less it worked, the less resonance it had. And I remember also seeing other people sharing deeper stuff, like deeper content around mindset. And that was around the time when I was already having my first spiritual awakening and getting into, let's call it new age. I don't like that term, but new age and like manifestation, energetics, the law of attraction, the universe. And I saw people sharing really deep stuff about that. And of course, I was no expert because I was just learning about that, but I felt in my soul like, I wish I could talk about these things. Like, I really wish I could talk about these deeper things about life, the meaning of life, purpose, mindset. But I just stuck to what I had been doing. And then the moment that I was conscious about it, that it wasn't working anymore and that I needed a shift was at the beginning of 2023, no, 2024. I was working with a coach and I told her, like, I really feel like I don't want to just share AI tips or Instagram tips. Like, that's just superficial for me. I want to go deeper. I'm wondering if I should start a new account to share just like, thoughts, reflections. And she was like, I mean, you've built a huge audience. You would be doing a disservice to the people that have followed you if you started a new account. And she was completely right. But still, I was like, oh, well, my AI products were starting to sell really well. I did start another account just to focus on AI, and that account blew up. So I was getting that kind of like, hit, quick dopamine hit. from that new account. So I stuck to that. And around September, again, I was speaking with my coach and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I want to change, I want to shift, I want to pivot. And she was like, you have the green light, do it. So did it. I did it. And I started talking more about mindset, entrepreneurship, business lessons that I learned. It was still very much in the business and entrepreneurship space, but I just detached my messaging from just like strategy and marketing and tips and content tips and went deeper into entrepreneurship and navigating entrepreneurship and lessons and all of that. So that was when I finally made that conscious decision of pivoting. But somehow, I think I was still building something on shaky ground. Like it was not my full calling, and I didn't really come to understand what that calling or my soul's purpose was until like what we are this is we're in October, like a month and a half ago. And ever since I made that final pivot, things have just accelerated at a quantum speed.
And it's so interesting listening to you because I think a lot of people can relate to that when you just know that what you're doing right now is not what you meant to do or is not what
Mm,
you're willing to do. And there's such a deep question and so many different opinions. Like, should you sell what is selling, or should you sell like what you're passionate about? And one advice is that don't sell your passion because your passion can change. And I'm still grappling with that because, like for me, when I made my pivot into more entrepreneurship, and I think it is still like kind of ongoing journey. I had a hypno breath work with my coach. She just started doing those hypno breath work sessions. It was my first experience with that modality of meditation, breathwork and hypnosis, which is like which is really really interesting combination. Like I know hypnosis, but I never had them combine both. And I had this breakthrough that almost like a spirit, like from the line, say, hey, like you're here to really heal entrepreneurs and really guide entrepreneurs. That's what you're here for. And I
mm.
was just like less than a year in business. I just gotten started. I just started making money with my business. I was fairly new. And that's where I start talking to people who would like to start business. Because, like when I start business, like my business, like kind of similar to you, within like what, four, four, maybe 5 months, I was already at 50K, which is like really
It's
good
really
for a new
good. Yeah.
business. Like, okay, like I know how to make money. And this is kind of gives you like the full sense of security. Like, if I can sell this, I can sell anything, right?
Yeah.
But then, like the voice is one thing, heal entrepreneurs, build entrepreneurs are like, okay, this is how you start your business, right? It's evolving, right? It's maturing. Like the messaging is maturing because, like, really, you don't know what you are capable of until you work with entrepreneurs. And like when
Mm,
because really, like what was on the inside is like very much a lot of mindset and spiritual work and strategy. So I'm very strategic. I'm like I love strategy, but also like when I gave them the foundation, I'm like, okay, but why you're not selling? And when I say why you are not selling, it's not that the sales are not coming in. Like it's just my clients were like, oh, I have one client, it's good. Like I did not expect to get a client within 30 days. This is so good. I'm not ready for more. And then we start
mm.
diving into like spirituality and like not more than just spirituality, more so unpacking the identity shift and spiritual shift and manifestation. So I know that you had a lot of nudges like in you. And I know it took you some time as you share, it's a process, right? It's not like you had a nudge, you have intuitive guidance and you act on it. In fact, my advice, you should not act on it immediately. You should really process it and then act on
Mm,
it.
true.
So, but if you were like if you were ignoring that nudge, right? Like, what was the cost of ignoring that calling, ignoring that nudge? What was going on inside, like on the spiritual, on the mindset, on the emotional level, and what was going on the outside? So you know this is not what you meant to do, but it's selling, and you just keep selling it on repeat. But your soul and your mind knows that it is not what you meant for. What was it? What was it like?
So internally, I would say I had a lot of self-worth issues. And of course, we cannot just tie my self-worth issues to that specific thing because it comes like it goes back to, childhood traumas or even like generational traumas. One of the things that I remember was feeling envy from other people in my space. So whenever I would see someone like having more success than me, maybe like growing faster, making more sales, having more successful launches, instead of feeling happy for them and celebrating them, I felt envy. And I felt like I was falling behind. Like, why can't I be at their level? So for me, there's a mismatch there. There's misalignment, right? And of course, I had to do a lot of inner work to get over that. But that's a clear sign that you're not where you're supposed to be or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's how I experienced it. And of course, externally, I would say that just the results that I was getting and the energy that I was putting into my business and the offers that I was building weren't selling as good as when I started, and my audience was not growing and I was losing followers every single day. And there's all of these external factors, but obviously they're all just a reflection of your internal state. If I am unfulfilled, if I am in this scarcity kind of state where I'm comparing myself to others, where I'm competing against others, well, obviously that's going to show up in my content, in my offers, in my business, and the way that I speak. So, and that's something that I'm definitely not experiencing now. And now that I feel in full alignment with what I'm doing, I'm just enjoying it. And I'm just here for the people that I'm serving. And I feel that I'm creating such a positive impact in people's lives right now that I don't even stop and think about other people that are doing what I'm doing or comparing myself to others. Like, that's not even that thought.
Yeah. So I have an interesting question for you because as a business strategist, this is something that I keep telling my clients, and I know not everybody is ready for this challenge or question. So when you pivoting, what is your strategy behind the pivot? And specifically, like, are you approaching it from the standpoint like this is what I don't want to work in this business anymore? Do you work yourself out of business and replace yourself with someone else, basically making your business like Instagram coaching, AI coaching, whatever it is, business coaching, to stand on its own? So let's say you hire a small team that scales that offer, and that offer still is selling. If it is profitable, it can sell. If you don't want to do it, you can work yourself out of it, earn your pivot, and start something new. Because this strategy that I've seen from entrepreneurs who built really huge empires, they have different businesses at different price level, and they just have CEOs of each company. And each
Yeah.
company is basically an offer, and they just
Yeah.
scale it into that portfolio. Or another way people pivot, they burn everything down and they just like, well, I'm talking about this. Which one did you choose?
I chose path number two because, well, first of all, my other offers were not like super mega profitable
Hmm.
anymore. So I feel like I'm not losing anything. I am
Hmm.
the kind of person that I go all in or on something. I actually, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep because I had like, the AI offers, then the business coaching offers, and now the Mystic Misfits. I was like, I can totally do the three of them. And my plan was to keep them all open and, like, am I multifaceted? I got this. But somehow I felt something told me this, again, intuition that if I wanted this to really work, I need to go all in on
Mm.
this. And if I was making, I don't know, like $50,000, $100,000 a month through my others, I would have definitely found a way of pulling myself out of it and maybe, as you said, hiring a small team to keep that work flowing. If customers keep coming and they're happy. But I just lost the joy for it, the spark, the fire. So I was like, I don't even want to do that anymore. It's like, why am I going to keep something open when I'm not feeling it, right?
Mm.
So I'm just gonna burn it all down. I mean, I haven't told my clients yet.
Hey, if you're listening, by the way.
FYI, I'm still working with clients and I love them. And the thing is that when I'm coaching them, I love it. When I see their breakthroughs and when I see that it does make me feel fulfilled. But to get new clients, I felt like I was working so hard and chasing people and it was really exhausting. So I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. With the new project business, everything is just flowing and people are coming to me and it's just so easy. That's how it should be. That's when you know that you are in alignment. When the business flows, when it's easy, when you're like rowing and things don't work out, it's exhausting. And with the AI business did really well last year. It's mostly digital products, so I don't do coaching there. I was creating new products based on, I love AI. Use AI for everything. So everything, every new thing that I discovered, most specifically for business and marketing, I would create a product about it. And I have this huge community of over 2,000 people that are AI enthusiasts. And every time I launched something there, most of my sales would come from that community. But in the last few launches, performance was really poor. And again, I no, it's because my energy was completely off. Even though I might have not known it when I launched these last offers, I know that my higher self already knew it. So there was a mismatch there as well. So with that one, I just stopped promoting my courses and I just stopped launching things. And it's kind of like slowly dying. So yeah, that's what I decided. But as you said, it really depends on the state of your other businesses. If they're really thriving and you don't feel like you need to be so involved and you can still serve the people that are there, then of course, go ahead
Yeah.
and keep them up.
Like it's really interesting because for me, I think it's also like depends on your level of maturity as an entrepreneur in a very good and kind way, because if it is just you working on your business or maybe you and your assistant, you
Hmm.
simply don't have the operational capacity. Because
Exactly.
like me working as a business coach, could I like, because you're right, like at some point your vessel starts to split. Like you show up to your, like for example in my case, I would show up to my career coaching clients, people would get jobs and get amazing transformations, but then even my coaching would shift, right, would shift too when I was teaching them more business side of corporate versus just like how to interview, how to be a good engineer. It's like, hey, like, no, you're not an engineer. You are. And this is how I was taught, by the way, in career development. Like, you're a business of one. You're not an individual contributor. Treat yourself and your engagement with your employer as a business of one. Like, you are entrepreneur no matter what. And, but later on, like, because you got to create marketing, right? And
Yeah.
when you learn how to create marketing, it's a lot of work, right? Regardless if you
Mm,
just do like just a identity based marketing or identity based marketing and the levels of awareness of your audience, that's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of content to create, right? It's a lot
yeah.
of ideation because, like, you got to think about like, okay, what is the problem? Like, if they're not aware of this problem, how they feeling right now? How would I give them verbiage to articulate that? Like, okay, now they know that the problem is. How do I show them why my offer is the offer? And if you do it for three different platforms and different business models, like if you are under 10 years, and especially if you are under $1 million in profit, you have not earned the right to really scale multiple businesses. You should go on one thing and one thing only. So I would
Exactly.
like to ask you this. This is a common pitfall for entrepreneurs who are pivoting. How do you manage the like aftermath of your pivot? Because what happens a lot, like you earn your audience, right? You pivoted. And then your audience may or may not pivot with you. And of course, with you, like it's a little bit different story, like it's flow. But for so many entrepreneurs, it's like, well, I pivoted. Like I was selling, but then now I pivoted and like it's not there. So what's wrong? How do you deal with that aftermath? And what aftermath you are personally seeing in your business?
Yeah, first and foremost, that's why I always say you have to focus on building a personal brand and connect with your audience because once they have this, they feel they have this personal connection with you, they will follow you no matter how many pivots you make, right? So, this, of course, you need to have a niche when it comes to your offer and so that it solves a specific problem that the majority of your audience has, but you do have to focus so much on building those personal connections with them through storytelling, through your vulnerabilities. Like at the end of the day, we're all human and social media is for human connection, right? So when you do that, of course, there's some people that will fall off when you pivot, but your diehard fans will always follow you everywhere, no matter what. Now, to answer your question, the aftermath of pivoting, I just see it as natural selection. It's like there's going to be a period of time when things are going to be really slow. You just have to keep going, keep posting, keep sharing your new message. Again, I think there needs to be a lot of energy work behind it. Again, talking about alignment. When you are in complete alignment with this new pivot, it doesn't matter because the right people will find you. And I felt that with my pivot, which is really interesting because, again, coming from the Instagram marketing space, I would actually tell my clients if you're going to pivot, it depends. I mean, there's two types of pivots, right? For me, my in my first few pivots were all centered around entrepreneurs. So it was Instagram marketing, which is for business owners and entrepreneurs. Then I did making money, like monetizing Instagram, same audience. Then I pivoted to AI for marketing, same audience. Then I pivoted to business coaching, entrepreneurship mindset, same audience. So even though I pivoted multiple times, I was kind of like targeting the same audience. With this one, which is spirituality, mysticism, even deconstructing religion, that's a complete different audience. Nonetheless, this has been the pivot that has worked the best. When you are in full alignment with your true soul's purpose, there's no algorithm that can fight against that, right? From one moment to another, I made this shift, and it's very interesting. I was talking about this with someone this weekend. It was on the
Interesting.
99 portal. The day before, I had just launched an AI workshop. Again, AI was the thing that really worked for me last year. So I wanted some like cash injection. She was like, "What worked last year? AI workshops. People know me for AI workshops. I'm gonna do an AI workshop." And I did like the whole strategy, like warming up people 2 weeks before, and I did all the marketing part pretty well. I think I'm a pretty good marketer. But when I launched the workshop, only 2 people signed up in the first day, and it didn't really affect me as I thought it would. I was just like, okay, interesting. I'm not the AI guy anymore. I'm not the marketing guy anymore. And that day I was reflecting and I was like, actually, everything is leading me to becoming a spiritual guide, a spiritual mentor, helping people awaken to their truth and to connect with God or source. I'm that person. And I made the decision that day. I'm no longer that the business or Instagram coach or AI coach. I am a spiritual guide. And ever since I made that decision, things started shifting, and then my content just started like blowing up, and like my carousels and my reels reaching a lot of non-followers and people reaching out in my DMs, and it was just like, what? Like this goes against all the marketing rules when it comes to Instagram.
Because we're
Like,
tired of the rules.
we're tired of the rules. And if I would have been my own client, I would have told me, no, no, no. If you want to start talking about mysticism, spirituality, deconstructing religion, you need to start a new account from scratch. Like, nobody in your audience is going to be interested in that. They've been following you for years for something else, for business stuff. But I
Disagree.
broke the rules.
Well, I think you are in your business. Of course, you see the people who follow you, right? But I strongly disagree that it's not the same. It's not exactly the same audience because, per my experience, the most spiritual and woo people are people who run businesses because we just know we can't handle it alone because
Mm,
the level of pressure that we are under and the pressure becomes heavier, and it's actually spiritual and kabbalistic principle because the more light you're receiving, and the light can be financial light, the light can be the public, you're a public figure in the public eye, you have millions of followers, you influence people, and the greater light coming to you, the greater pressure you feel. I've never been so spiritual and seeking alignment, deep soul alignment with myself. I'm a person of faith always, but it is the first season in my life when I'm like searching the voice of God. When I start my mornings with deep meditations and with releasing, when I wake up, I make conscious choice to say to God, God, thank you for believing in
mm,
me, to waking me up, to bringing life for another day. Thank you
yeah,
for
that's beautiful.
believing in me. Help me to believe in myself too, as much
Mm,
as you believe in me. And then I wake up and then I wash my face and then I do proper prayer. I do like deeper meditation and deeper prayer. So like I would say, yeah, like it's on the money. And it's not a different audience. And it's just like you attracted people who may not be entrepreneurs 100%, people who are
yeah,
so spiritual, but we are so spiritual. A lot of us are so spiritual. It's just like we don't talk
that's
about
true.
it. Shannon
Yeah.
McKinstry may not talk about her spiritual relationship with God because this is not what she does, and she may choose not to talk about that publicly ever, right? Or like the coaches that I know on on the more personal level, they're very spiritual. So like
Yeah.
that is 100% true.
That's true. I agree with you. But what I'm trying to say is that, for example, when in one of my pivots,
Mhm.
when I started talking more about spirituality, but more from a Christian standpoint, talking about Jesus and
Uh-huh.
scripture and how we can use scripture in the Bible to, like in our business journey, I was getting the same kind of resonance that I'm getting now with this type of content, that it's like the opposite. I mean, maybe not the opposite because I'm still talking about scripture and the Bible, but from another point of view, from another perspective.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree with you that all like most of my audience are still entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurship is the most spiritual thing that you can do.
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you kind of already shared what you're doing now, but if you were to kind of like pinpoint, like based on your previous pivots, are there any particular moves that you're doing now way differently that you've done before? And if so, what they are and what some of those efforts, like clearly they were really successful. You grew audience, you grew community. I'm a part of your free community, amazing community, by the way. I'm never seeing such an active community. You know, like when coaches do like free community as a, it's
Yeah.
dead inside, and like nobody posts,
Yeah.
like they just like pitch slap, come to my webinar, come to my webinar, come to my webinar. And like in your community is totally different. People share their spiritual experience and are like, oh my God, this is the best community I've ever been a part of. So what are you doing differently now? And one is working and one is not working. Give us all the meats. Give us all the, like, what's going on the inside.
In terms of business and marketing,
I think both business and marketing, and also more on the personal level too.
so if I'm 100% honest with you, I don't have like a clear strategy at the minute. I'm just kind of like really letting myself be guided by God and listening to my intuition. I do have a business partner now, which is amazing because it makes you feel supported. She's in Canada, I'm in Bali. So we were joking the other day. Our business is operating 24 hours a day because, when I'm asleep,
Right.
she's awake and vice versa. So that's really cool. And I feel like we complement each other so well. She's definitely very much into her feminine energy and I'm into my masculine. And we like make this perfect team. So that's nice. We decided to build this community because people were kind of asking for it. And we are just so in shock of to see how fast it's grown. And as you said, like the engagement inside is amazing. Of course, and this is very interesting because we do have like a lot of free stuff inside the community. So you have like free resources. We do like breathwork sessions every Friday that are free. We're gonna do like a monthly like free activation. But of course, I mean, we also want to build a business around that, right? And from what I've understood, she used to do fitness and nutrition coaching. And we're both like, we're just going to go all in on this. So, of course, we want to monetize. And there's people that have already been kind of upset that we're like trying to monetize, which is very interesting because, in this spiritual world, there's always going to be like these kind of people that believe that if it's God's work, we should not be charging for it. But it's like saying, I mean, health, right? We health is our birthright, and we still have to pay to go to the doctor, right?
Right.
So, but anyways, so from a strategy standpoint, yes, we just have this free community, and it's where we nurture people, but we actually really nurture them, and we take the time to speak to everyone and to share value. And most of the stuff is free. We just launched two paid offers. The first one is Threshold, which is a private container where we will help people integrate everything that they're discovering from their spiritual awakening, also from the things that we share in the community, how you can integrate that into their own lives. So it's like a 4-week cycle where we're going to be doing live activations, scripture decoding, which is my part. So that's fun. We already have our founding members in, which is super exciting. We just launched a challenge called the Return to Eden Challenge. It's a 21-day challenge to help people. We're going to be doing a lot of embodiment practices, but it's basically to help people reset their energy and their frequency back to the natural state of joy, alignment, prosperity, abundance, like in the Garden of Eden. So that one is exciting as well. So we have those two things, but the community is completely free. And in terms of what I'm doing, not from a strategy standpoint or marketing or business, I am spending so much time and energy into like researching, and I just feel so passionate about learning more of this and understanding the truth behind, for example, behind the Bible. And what I've realized now, which is fascinating, is that the Bible has been given to us as a spiritual manual to help us raise our consciousness. And, when we raise our consciousness to like this level of enlightenment, we are connected to source. And when we're connected to source, we remember that we're one. We're all part
Mm-hmm.
of the same thing. It's oneness. So
Yes.
the Bible has been written for that. People have just taken it literal, and that has caused a lot of division. So I don't know if that answers your question or not,
No, it does. It
but
does. I love that. I,
yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. And I'm also the intention has been set. I'm going to write a book about it as well.
wow. Okay. All right. I think from psychological standpoint, from scientific standpoint, I think you really tapped into awaken awareness. And this is
Yeah.
not a spiritual term. This is a scientific term developed by Dr. Lisa Miller. She's a clinical psychologist. She spent lifetime research how spirituality affects your tenacity, dealing with depression. She developed with other neuroscientists and
Hmm.
discovered that there's a neural network in our brain that connects us to when we see serendipities, when we see intuitive knowledge. And
Hmm.
this is our awakened awareness in damage like traumatic brain injury. That network is like present in every human being. It's like a muscle, and you either
Hmm.
exercise it or not. And I think you're like really when you say, well, I don't really have a strategy, I just trust God and I just like trust the guidance and I just guide and I just follow the guidance and I see the aftermath. This is the evidence how awaken awareness, again, this is not a spiritual term, this is scientific, psychological term. This is how awaken awareness is guiding you, practically guiding you in life and business. Because
Hmm.
this is like she, in her book, The Awakened Brain, she show really beautiful example, not from the business standpoint, but from her personal life when she was trying to conceive a child for many years. And somehow in the hotel room, she was seeing this commercial about an orphan child who was saying that, hey, like, I don't care that I'm in this environment, like I'm breathing the glue just to forget, like just to forget that I'm not loved by anyone.
Hmm.
And like it kind of touched her. She decided to adopt. And the energy came to her at night and say, hey, like if you adopt, if you conceive, would you adopt? And she said no. And then she went to a spiritual ritual with a native tribe. And then the second night, the same spiritual entity came to her at night and asked if she already had her son, adopted son, like start motion, right, like to adopt. And the same entity asked, if you conceive, would you adopt? And she said yes. And that night, she conceived a child and proceeded with the adoption too.
Oh
And that is
wow.
also an evidence of awakened brain. We see it all the
Ah.
time.
Yeah, it's fascinating how more and more there's like this gap between spirituality and science is just like getting smaller and smaller, right? And what I talk about in my content and what I want to discuss in this book that I write is that back then they didn't have technology. They didn't have the language to explain all the things that now doctors like Dr. Liza Miller or Joe Dispenza can explain through neuroscience. And basically, it's like how we're literally part of a greater whole, like how the quantum field exists and how everything is energy. And that's what Jeshua was trying to tell us all along through his parables. He was so against scripture literalism, and that's exactly what people are doing now. But I did want to mention something about how when you asked me, like, what's your strategy or what's your plan? And I'm just like, I'm just letting myself be guided. And I don't know if I told you this on my show, on my podcast, but when I had a theta healing session pretty recently, and we were looking at a lot of subconscious blocks and a lot of ancestral trauma and blocks that I had and soul's contracts. And after the session, she came to me and she was like, I just had like your ancestors coming to me and because I told her about what was happening with my business and the Mystic Misfits and how it was just like all of a sudden like starting to blow up. And she's like, you are finishing something you started in a previous life that you couldn't finish. and you have all the support. I'm just getting goosebumps. You have all the support of your ancestors right now. That's why everything is working out. And this is literally your life's mission. And I was just like, wow, it makes complete sense. And that's why, again, I'm being guided and things are working without me putting so much effort into it. It's just, flowing. And I did also start, that was a month before the 9/9. So around the Lionsgate portal, I started remembering for the first time in my life. I just started remembering things that I just haven't lived in this life. And it was just like, it's just been a beautiful sequence of events, like divine orchestration that have led me to this point right now. And this is just the beginning as well. But it's brought a lot of backslash as well, a lot of condemnation, especially from the Christian community, which I guess is something that I also experienced in a previous life.
Mhm. No, like I think when you start talking about spirituality from non-indoctrinated standpoint, right? And how Yeshua, or like, what is like, just a side note, I'm reading the book of Joshua or Yeshua, right? Like from Old Testament. And if you see the Hebrew spelling of Yeshua and Yeshua, they're exactly the same. And in Russian Bible, Isus, like Joshua,
Jeez.
and Isus, the same. Like it's literally the same name. Because like when I become a Christian, like Isus Navin, like, or Joshua son of Nun, like is it Jesus? Like it's a little early for Jesus Christ. Why do I have a book of Jesus? So like
Interesting.
it's really when you are going out of that indoctrinated religion, right? Then you see backlash because like people feel uncomfortable. For example, with the post with when of our interview, it's like, what do you mean you can be gay and be loved by God and love God and serve
What?
God? Like, what do you
That's
mean by it?
crazy.
Yeah, and like the
That's
whole
crazy.
discussion is like, well, I'm not here to like argue about clamor passages from the Bible because that part of my life is so gone. But also, regardless of like what a rabbi say or what I say about those phenomena, right? Like how gay people serve God, like you will believe what you believe. You will choose believe what you choose to believe, because Bible, it's not about what is written in the Bible, it's how you read the Bible, because Bible is perfectly clear that slavery is a-okay. But now we gotta like justify why we're not doing slavery. Where
Mm,
like Bible will perfectly, and like Jesus was perfectly clear that divorce is not okay. And like that it still like resonates with me. Like I do not believe in divorce. I and it was so crazy. Like I went through divorce, but then we got reconciled, right? I do not believe in divorces. Like it's not natural, right? Like it's always and forever. And Jesus was talking about this deep soul alignment, that you don't just pick a partner out of lust. You pick a partner out of soul alignment. And once you found
mm,
this soul connection, then it's forever. And then, in fact, Kabbalah says even when you kiss someone, your soul path, your soul correction starts to intertwine. And the more deeper connection you have with that person, your tikkuns, and tikkun in Kabbalah is a soul correction, like they start to intertwine. So you have to be very careful who you decide to have sex with. Thank you so much for being part of my community and coming to the podcast and inviting people to your community. I will definitely link the link for your free community. So because I want to people join. It's not like, it's just like really like, if you are an entrepreneur and if you want to just see the example how a good community looks like, not pitch slap community. I like, listen, I understand you want to sell like yesterday, but before you sell, you actually have to create connection. One's community, especially if you're spiritually inclined, if you need, like, even members of your community, they're so different. Somebody posted, like, oh, I'm doing free reading whatever she was doing, and I said, "Hey, like, yeah, sign up." And I thought it was would be like AI generated freebie because like my husband, he's an astrologer. I'm kind of curious, like what other astrologers would say, and she did a synchronous reading for me, and she recorded a video. I'm not even her target audience. She's not serving me. Like she is not, there's no like monetary interest, like
Yeah.
direct, like, but it's so deep. I'm like, oh my gosh, like tell me what you're really selling, and like how people really work with you. I work with women. I'm like, oh, okay. So all of the resources are gonna be in the description box. Now, before we wrap up, like one thing I want to share, kind of like since we're on the pivot topic, one interesting nudge that I'm also receiving, and I think it is just like a path of trusting yourself, is really to delve into spiritual psychology. Because this is something that I went to school for, right? Like, I am a clinical psychologist. I work in clinical settings for so many years. And also, like, a spirituality has always been a part of my journey. Whenever I would speak with my clients or my patients about spirituality, God, they would always see better like recovery process versus if we just use standard like psychotherapy outside of like religion or outside of like
Mm.
it's not like religion and spirituality. And also like that's something that I'm adding more. And what I'm noticing, like it's so interesting that you said like, you just have to listen to God and like God will guide you. The more I'm leaning away from spiritual psychology into like, oh, like I like strategy. I do love strategy so much. Like I'm Virgo, like I'm very strategic mind. But like the more I'm leaning away, the quieter it gets. The more I'm leaning towards like spirituality, psychology, spiritual psychology, not necessarily Kabbalah because like it is ancient wisdom, and I'm not Jewish, I'm not rabbi. Like I don't think I earned the right to teach that yet because I'm still learning. But when I talk about that, like then something like people just find me, right? Like for my podcast, like I interview Robert Greene, like, and he's a life coach and spiritual leader too, and he also lives in Bali. So we had an interview to like together. So like all the people from Bali found me. So, but before we wrap up, like, what would you like to our audience to know? Like, whatever message you want to leave with them, it can be spiritual, it can be business related. Like, just message from one. What would that be?
What message for your audience? Okay, let me think on this one. If it makes you feel afraid, if pivoting makes you afraid, lean into it because that fear is a sign. Lean into fear. You have settled in your comfort zone. You've outgrown the identity that you are currently experiencing. And that fear is just a reminder or a sign that there's a lot of growth to come and a lot of, yeah, growth, success, opportunities when you make the decision to pivot.
Makes sense. And no, it absolutely does make sense. And I think for me, like, really resonated because, like, I am definitely in this space where, like, well, should I talk about awaken awareness? People
Mm,
have children and businesses because of awaken awareness, not to mention
yeah.
healing from depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. And by the way, it is not a claim that if you lean into spirituality, all of your health problems will go away. This is not what I'm saying. Lean into discomfort, right? If it is your soul alignment, what do you have to lose? This is the business, right? You can build a Microsoft and then, or like what you can build, the company name is escaping me, but you can create a company that will distribute the CD disc with movies and music. And then like, oh, in the period of like few years, you will your business model, that business will be wiped out. What do? You can build Microsoft, but then here comes another big player, and in a few years wipe you out. Do you remember Skype?
They went out of business pretty recently, actually, like a
Like,
few months ago. I still used it, actually.
right?
It
Like,
was, yeah, I was still
you,
using it.
I often ask my guests, what is one question that you would like to ask me? And it could be anything, like anything.
What is the scariest thing you've experienced spiritually?
Ooh, scariest thing I experienced spiritually. That's such a deep question.
It just came.
No, like that's a good question. And I had a very interesting, very scary mystical experience when I fell asleep. And like I still don't know the meaning of that experience, that dream. I fell asleep and felt like I did not fall asleep. Like sometimes you like just doze off and like it feels so real, right? You're dreaming
Mm,
your brain and like there's a when you experience active dream, your brain is in the REM phase, right? When your eyes moving rapidly, like but your eyes are closed, and like I felt totally 100% awake. And then it was in Moscow, Russia, in my apartment, like on my couch. And then I see this guy, like absolutely the most handsome, good looking guy standing in front of me. I was not scared, I was like, oh, like, who are you? I was really curious because, his look really like, I like, wow, like, because if you broke in, and you're about to kill me, can we have a little fun at least? My dying wish,
totally.
like, you're such a good looking guy. And he smiled at me. He started laughing and he said, "You know who I am." And I jumped back out of sleep and I realized, oh, it was Satan. I understand Satan way different now. Satan is an opponent, is a Satan in
The
Hebrew,
opposer.
the opposer, yeah. And that got me kind of like, that shook me up. Like my opposer came to me in my dream. And like, you
And
know
your
who I am.
opposer is so handsome.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he said, like, I'm always with you. I'm always watching. You know who I am. I'm always with you.
Love
And
that. It's so interesting.
and it's like back in the day, in with the Christian mindset, right? With the Christian theology, like you don't want Satan to be always with you. You want God always with you, right? Like this is something unnatural when Satan is always with you. With Jewish spirituality and Kabbalah, and in fact, Jesus, like he followed Jewish faith. He was more so like, hey, we're more spiritually driven than, like he was. I don't know, like if I were to put him in a label somehow, he's probably more reformed Jew like right now than anything. Like he was way ahead of his time. Like how he
Totally.
saw like Torah and spirituality. But in Hebrew, in Jewish spirituality, in Jewish mysticism, Satan is always with you. The opponent is always with you because this is
Sure.
how, yeah, this is how God is expanding your limit. Because if you're not being tested, how do you know you have the vessel to hold the light? And the opponent
Yeah.
is here to test you if you can hold the line. Like, why it is so hard for us? Like, for me, for example, I quit smoking. Like, I mean, it's working, but like the slip ups, the temptation and the cravings, it's just like crazier than ever because the opponent is actually testing my
Mm,
congruency and integrity of the desire to be healthy and choose my health. And God wants me to choose my health. And
mm,
my opponent wants me to choose my health. That's why he is testing me. And once you pass the test, like the opponent will go away. And by the way, with
yeah.
Jesus, when like he was in the desert, and the opponent was testing him, like it was not a battle. It was just like, hey, do this, and Jesus would answer in a very humane way. And when it was done, he said, get away from me, because his
Mm.
test was done. And the Satan went away from Jesus not because he commanded him to, but because his test was done.
Even we see that in Job as well, where it's actually mentioned that Satan is in God's court and is telling God, okay, well, we should give Job this test. Like, let's get, I don't know, I remember exactly what, let's like
Hmm.
take away all his family and test him to see if he really loves you. And God agrees. And then, okay, well, now let's test him to, let's take away all his friends and, and it was a test, and Job passed the test at the end. I mean,
Yeah.
it was hard, but he passed it.
And by the way, Job was not Jewish.
No, no,
He
it
was not
wasn't.
Jewish.
No, no, no,
he
no.
was not he was not a part of people of Israel, which is like blows my mind. And like how expansive God is, and that we have a book of non-Jew. And Jethro, the same, like he is a sage, but like he admits that like God, Yod Hey Wav, hey, he says the name of God, he invokes the name of God, and like he also recognized as one of the sages, and he is not a part of people of Israel, the father-in-law for Moses, and he was his mentor, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah. We should probably do part three when we just dive into really spiritual stuff, like spiritual psychology, spiritual stuff, and just nerd out of like
I would
awakening.
love that. Well, my business partner and I, we're also going to start a podcast for the Mystic Misfits. So that's where we're going to be talking about all this fun stuff. So you are going to be our guest.
Yes, let's do it, because I do have a lot of mystical, magical, and spiritual experiences altogether, positive and negative. And like, I think like if I were to name like the absolutely scariest experience is when I was 13 and I started doing magic, like spells and like really like serious magic. My mom freaked out. I start losing control of myself,
Oh,
like
wow.
mind control. I started feeling entities controlling my mind, because like I made a covenant with a like with an entity, like, because I read the spell, they do what I want, and now it's my turn to appease them, to pay, right? And I did it without guidance, without knowing anything. And on that night, the floor in my apartment got really kind of like spotty and dirty. Like, and of course, like it's Moscow. It was like winter-ish, like fall winter-ish time. But the imprints on the floor were like a goat, like imprints, right? Like a goat feet on the floor. Kind of resembles goat feet. My grandma, like she said, like, what is that? Like what she thought that I did something, to prank her. But like, and it was not like super obvious, but like it was obvious for me. And after that night, when I decided to like not continue, it went away. I think that was the scariest moment for
Oh,
me.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sound interesting. I'm sure you didn't love it back then, but it's so interesting to hear these stories. I
Happy
love them.
Halloween, by the way.
Happy Halloween.
All right, Juan, thank you so much. It was absolutely blessed to have you on the podcast. I'm looking forward to coming to your new podcast as a guest. Because, like, as you can see, I can nerd out on spiritual stuff. I
Yeah.
love religion, like all that. Like, it would be my honor. All right, how people can find you, by the way? Is it like Instagram? I know you on Instagram. You on LinkedIn. You on YouTube. You're everywhere.
Yeah, my most active channel's Instagram is at I am Juan Galán. It's the same on YouTube. And then I'm always linking my other platforms there. So yeah, I am Juan Galán on Instagram. And if you want to follow the Mystic Misfits Society as well, it's also at Mystic Misfits Society. And that's going to also take you to the private community, which I'm sure you're going to link as well. Thank you so much, Eugene. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.